Dog Life Radio.
All right, everybody. Welcome aboard. This is Dog Life Radio, and I am your host, Rossi Giugio. Welcome. Thanks again for joining me. This is episode 56, or season 3, episode 2, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm just happy you showed up. Thank you. So this week, I had the chance to virtually sit down with Nicole Brazier, or Niki as she goes by. She's a reporter for CrossFit headquarters. And I'm sure if you check her out on Instagram at Reporter Nicole, you'll probably recognize her. She's the lady who's on the sidelines or at the finish lines, whichever way you want to look at it. She is talking to all of those CrossFit athletes as they finish up different heats, events, and so forth at the sanctionals, at the games. So I had the good luck to virtually bump into her, have a chance to have a chat. It was fantastic. She is super funny. You know, we talked about a whole bunch of different things. We are co-mingling, I guess, in the Northeast. She's located in Rhode Island. I'm up here in Connecticut. We talked a little bit about the fall and what that means to us. We talked about eating, of course, and donuts because, I mean, really, what's better than donuts? So I had a great time. I know you're going to enjoy this. She, like I said, she's super funny. Check her out at www.NicoleBrazier.com. That's Brazier, or on Instagram at Reporter Nicole. All right, so enjoy this one.
All right, so welcome, Nicole, Niki Brazier. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Rossi Giugio, Dog Life Radio, and we're I don't want to say we're live because this will be taped, but we're rolling.
We're rolling. Thank you for having me.
We are rolling. No problem. Thank you. So this was so cool. It's funny how I get introduced or bump into people, and again, I will thank the wonders of social media. Ran into you on Instagram, and I could have almost run into you physically as you are based in Rhode Island, and I am in Connecticut. You're a fellow Northeasterner here.
Yeah, we're neighbors. What are the odds?
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I talk with people generally all over the States, sometimes all over the world, and it's so cool to talk to somebody who can commiserate with me about the seasons or the very rapidly changing seasons here in the Northeast.
Yeah, it was like 80 degrees in October, and it's about to snow, and then we're going to bitch about the snow, but right now we're bitching about the heat. We're the worst. We're the absolute worst.
Yes. So you said you were before we started recording. You were saying you've already done your apple picking, and yes, it was like 80 degrees yesterday. It's going to be 80 today. Was it a good experience? I've heard mixed reviews this year.
It was a good haul for me. Of course, I put on like a cute flannel and a blanket scarf and was like sweating bullets out in the middle of the apple orchard because it was like 80 degrees. I tried to make it like a cute fall activity, but it didn't really pan out that way. But the apples are good. No complaints there.
Well, I guess that's all that really counts, as long as you're getting some good apples out of the mix.
Yeah.
Now, for me, apple picking, when you do apple picking, there's generally a cider donut mixed in there as well.
Yeah.
Did you partake? I've heard and seen that you are a self-proclaimed donut snob.
Yes. If there's an opportunity to donut, I'm doing it. 100%. Also, if there's an opportunity to cocktail, I'm doing that too. So we had apple cider donuts, and we had like fall cocktails with cider and Prosecco and pumpkin pie vodka, which sounds disgusting but is amazing. Highly recommend.
I was going to ask if you're one of those pumpkin fiends, because once we hit August, everybody starts craving pumpkin everything, whether it's pumpkin alcohols or a creamer for your coffee, pumpkin pie, pumpkin treats and everything. People go nuts over that stuff.
Yeah, I own my basic bitchness pretty well. I'm here for it, so to speak.
All right. So on the donut snob, I want to ask you, what are your top favorite memorable donuts that you've had?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have a spot here. So you're close. You'll have to come up to Rhode Island to try this out. We have a spot here called Peabody Doughnuts, and they are this one cute little local donut shop in Providence that make the most insane, like, I don't know, just like concoction donuts. Like, they're just big and beautiful and like definitely like Instagrammable, but they're just, their donut itself is amazing. So any toppings they put on it are just insane. So they have made some epic flavors in the past. My personal favorite, and my husband's favorite as well, because we're big Harry Potter nerds, is butterbeer.
Oh, awesome.
Just go with it. Just let it happen. But they also have a rosewater pistachio one that I, like, crave. And they change their menu every month, so I'm, like, waiting for it to come back. And I don't know if there's a
rosewater
one, but those are
pistachio?
Yeah. It sounds weird, right?
Yes,
so
it does. Okay. I'll trust you on that one.
So good.
Okay. I had to ask everybody in all, the different areas of the country, everybody's got their favorite donut spots, but I wanted to know if it was like, you're diehard with the chocolate and peanut butter combos, but rosewater and pistachio was something I was not going to predict. So that one definitely.
No, me either. Because I like, you put chocolate on anything and I'll eat it. So that was a good guess, but something about that one, it's weird. I don't know. It's different. I loved it.
Okay, awesome. Well, I guess that's all that counts, as long as you try it and you loved it. So are these like giant donuts, or so these are big ones that you go and you buy a couple, you got to split them up to share, or are you going to just like, no, you cannot have any of my donut?
No, we're pretty good about it. Well, we're kind of, I say we're good about it, but we're kind of gross about it, because my husband and I will buy, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 or more and cut them up so that we can, like, have little slivers of them. But then somehow at the end of the day, we still manage to consume, like, way too many donuts that are the size of your face. So we're pretty gross. I'm fueled by donut carbs.
Yeah, I just love those. They're definitely a weak spot for me too. I remember I was took my kids on a family vacation to Universal Studios down in Florida, and there was a Voodoo Doughnuts outside the gates, and of course we had to go there. And my daughter got a maple glazed and bacon donut, and it had 4 strips of bacon on it. So it was that good though.
Voodoo is so good. Is it open 24 hours down there the way the other ones are?
I don't know. Seeing as I had the kids, we were out of there around 8 or 9 o'clock. Mine are little guys and gals. She's 7 and he's 9. So I don't know, but 24 hours, that could be dangerous.
Oh yeah, I have not walked to Voodoo when I was, like, visiting Denver and those other spots where they're at like 11:30 at night. To be like, this is great. I'm just going to do this right now.
That's cool. It's funny because we jumped right into this donut conversation because before we started to record, we went down the apple picking, and so naturally when I hear apple picking, I think donuts. I forgot to even introduce who you are and what you do and why I was so looking forward to. That's it. Nikki and I go way back. About
way
a week
back
now. Nicole Brazier. Nikki is, CrossFit headquarters reporter. So for any of the listeners that are familiar with CrossFit and have watched the games, follow it on Instagram, on whatever social media platform, you may recognize her face, as I did when I bumped into you, at least virtually, through Instagram. And there's so much more to you besides being the CrossFit headquarters reporter. We'll jump into your background in a bit as well, but that's who Nikki is. So I forgot to do that at the beginning.
That's fine. Donuts are far more important, clearly.
I really think so, especially when they're those gigantic ones. Like Voodoo makes one that I remember they called it the Texas donut, and it was literally as big as your face. And that's
oh my God.
When my son got, and of course I had to help eat that too.
Of course.
Of course. So we'll shift off of donuts. We can always come back, absolutely. But Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about your background in athletics? Obviously, you're working for CrossFit as a reporter. There's obviously a huge backstory of how you got there. So I would love for you to kind of share that experience with me as well as the listeners.
Yeah, sure. How I got into CrossFit reporting?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I started out my career as a journalist, and I worked in TV news, and actually was a print journalism major for a minute in college, and then realized newspapers were dying, and if I switched to broadcast, they would teach me not only how to write but also how to record video and edit video. So I went to school for broadcast journalism, and I was a TV news reporter for a little while. And I was an MMJ, a multimedia journalist, so I would shoot my own video and do my own editing and run my own live shots, and I rarely had a camera guy with me, or camera gal, I guess, a camera person with me.
A
camera person. And it was pretty brutal, but it was a really great way to learn all those skills. So I'm like way into media and I'm way into journalism, and I also ended up starting CrossFit up in Maine. I was in Bangor, Maine, and one of my girlfriends opened up a gym, and I started going there with my husband, who was then my boyfriend, and it just sort of, like CrossFit does, sort of just like takes over your life. So I started coaching, and things were going really well, and CrossFit was still relatively new back then. This was like 2011. So a year or two later, I saw on Facebook, because I liked them back when they were on social media, CrossFit had posted on Facebook like, hey, do you know about broadcast? And also, can you snatch? Send us your reel. And back then, everyone, and probably now still, I'm not in it anymore, but everyone working in news or in media always had a reel, like a DVD or a video clip of all of your best work, like a montage. So I had it ready to go, so I sent it in. I remember I uploaded it to YouTube and sent the YouTube link, and that was like a big deal. Like YouTube was new. Now I'm old as fuck. But at the time,
I was going to say
YouTube
we're dating ourselves because I'm older than that.
Oh my God. I remember it was like the first time I had sent someone my reel that wasn't on a physical DVD. This was like 2012 or 2013. And lo and behold, I get an email back from Sean Woodland, who was like, do you want to come with us to regionals and do a broadcast? And I was like, hell yeah. So that was 2013. And I ended up going to what was back then the Mid-Atlantic Regional, and it just sort of like spiraled from there. I started out with them doing just sort of taped interviews and in the can stuff, and then the following season I came back to do live sideline reporting, so interviewing the athletes after the events, after the heats and stuff, and that just has since spiraled into all sorts of different media, from daily wrap-up videos to live social stuff, and just sort of figuring out any way to bring the stories from the competition to the public, which has been awesome. I've since gotten out of TV news. I'm now in marketing and advertising and run my own small business doing content creation. So all that stuff I learned way in the beginning, how to do video, how to edit, how to be on camera has all really paid off in the end. But the freelance work I've gotten to do for CrossFit and for, a lot of the CrossFit like events that they're now sanctionals, but in the past have just been sort of affiliated, has been by far my favorite work to date.
Well, it sounds just an incredible opportunity. And going back to like when CrossFit was new and starting to, it did explode onto the scene, and it has become this phenomenon. And there's always going to be, haters and people who think it's a cult and it's no good and all of that. But you can't argue with the athleticism of the people in the competitions and the workouts. You just really you can't. And I'm not one of those cult members. I'm still a newbie to it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you were saying how exciting.
Now.
Yeah, I have to. Before I signed, I signed up to do some classes. They're like, you have to love this. You just before you do. Okay, fine, I'll love it. Let's go. Okay, so you were saying that the work that you were doing for CrossFit was just really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite things that you have done? I mean, obviously interviewing the athletes after events, during for preparation. That's got to be just incredible because these people are just, they are the elite of the elite when you're talking about this type of athleticism. So that's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is wild just like hearing their stories and, understanding that a lot of them started out like you and I, which is just insane to think. I mean, Ben Smith was just working out in his garage for years and years before CrossFit became what it is today. A lot of them, were, I want to say, quote unquote, regular athletes, like just people who started up and got really good and then transformed themselves into these superhuman athletes. I'm convinced that they're not human. Just the way they operate and the way they recover and the way they're capable of doing the things that they are is just, it's unbelievable. So, learning those stories and being able to relate to this type of athlete on that level, I think is probably the coolest thing. When you look at like, oh, I started in my garage, maybe I can get that good someday, or like, people like Travis Williams, who's really open about his weight loss journey and the type of physique and the capabilities of his body back then are so different than they are now. Like being able to just learn about them and share their stories over and over is by far the coolest part. And I think, in the beginning, it was difficult to do interviews with them because they were just regular people who got good at this. Like they weren't professional athletes. They didn't have major sponsorships. Like they did not understand that they were required to like do interviews and like be there for their fans. Like they didn't get it. And it took a few years, a few seasons of like molding them to like, no, you're really good at this. Like you have to be on camera with me and you have to like tell your story to your fans and you have to like build this rapport with the people who are watching at home because this is who you are now. You're a professional athlete now. It took some training because, when you see the little red light on the camera come on, like you freak out. It's normal. It's totally normal. But you got to get good at it. You got to get comfortable with it. So I feel particularly lucky and blessed to be the person to help like shepherd them on that journey,
That's so cool the way that you described that too, because you think if for people who are not super familiar with CrossFit or CrossFit at all, I think about it in terms of just their athletes. And in the early stages, they were just people who were good at doing these exercises and these runs and so forth. And to your point, they are like the tip of the spear, the top 1% of athletes, in this realm, period. And then all of a sudden, if you fast forward to today, I mean, you look at some of the big names in the sport, they've got well over 1 million, 2 million followers on Instagram. These people are massive celebrities. So it's like comparing people in other big sports like basketball or football. That's how big these people are. And they've got ridiculous endorsements, and it's broadened too, because I would assume, I haven't been following, and I'm not an expert in CrossFit athletic history, but in the early stages, there was probably just a handful of big stars where, I mean, today there's massive amounts of huge names with huge followings and sponsorships.
Yeah, exactly. And back then, I mean, there were, only like you said, only a handful, and the names were, very different than they are right now. Some of them are the same, obviously, and, Rich will always be on the top, and people like him, they'll, and they've been there since the beginning, which is so cool. But yeah, definitely there's been a lot of newcomers since this has come on to the scene the way that it has, because there's so many more opportunities to fall into CrossFit, to train with awesome programmers and to get your nutrition dialed in. And just the level of athleticism, the bar that we've set is so much higher. I mean, you look in recent memory, like if you're a recent fan of CrossFit, look at when we introduced the pegboard at Games just a couple years ago. And, year one, no one could do it. I think there was one female athlete or no female athletes that actually finished the sets of going up and down. Fast forward one season, everyone can pegboard, front ways, back ways, upside down. Like, it's insane. And if you look way, way back to when we were, in Aromas and just starting out, like, no one could do muscle-ups. Women could not snatch 95 pounds. Like, we continue to set the bar year after year. We're only raising it, and that is a testament to Dave Castro and Justin Berg and the people who program for these athletes and continue to make events that test them in every which way, shape, and form. So the opportunity to now become one of those athletes, I would say, is greater, but also the field is so much deeper. Good luck. I can't even imagine what it must be like to wake up every day and be like, this is my career and I'm facing the Terminators of the world right now.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. It's like it's you hit on, like, you know, new events with new skill sets being introduced, but then also the raising of the bar just of something like weight. You know, the amount of weight that is being lifted in events this year compared to last year to the year before, where, you know, you could draw parallels where, like the intro weights on female lifters this past year, you know, compare them to the male lifters of, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable how the progress, where every year people are just increasing and becoming more and more elite.
Yeah, it's so cool, and I think it's so inspiring to everyone, even on the ground level, like even just people who walk into a gym 3 times a week at 5:30 in the morning. And I know I'm going to totally sound like I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid when I say this, and that's because I did. But, like, the only reason I ever decided to get into coaching in 2011 was because I saw insane results in my own body, and I straight up, like, wanted to spread the gospel of CrossFit. Like, no one like reached out to me, no one whatever. I just looked at the owner of my gym and I was like, this is insane. I feel great. Like, how can I get into doing this? And I only wanted to coach on-ramp back then because I only wanted the opportunity to introduce this to people in their lives. Obviously that's since, expanded, and I love coaching anywhere from elite athletes down to people walking into the gym for the first time. But it was only to do that. So I think having the most insane athletes at the top, like you said, tip of the spear, does everything to inspire people, even at the ground level, even, like myself, just a casual exerciser these days. The more I see over there, the more I want to do in my gym.
See, I agree. I think that's applicable. It's not just a CrossFit thing. That's an NFL thing. It's an NBA thing. It's any sport, anything, And the thing that gets me about it doesn't get me. I guess it's just like a pet peeve is when people start throwing out the whole steroids thing, where like, they're all on steroids, and it's like, okay, so I wanted to throw this out there and I wanted to talk about it, but it's like my perspective is, if you look at the NFL, you look at the NBA, you look at all other major sports, you look at professional fighting and boxing, everybody's getting tested. And out of the largest pool of athletes from this, there's always a small percentage that they do pop. They get caught doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and it's a small percentage. And generally, it's not going to taint the entire pool. Like if one person in the NFL gets caught with steroids, you don't say they're all on steroids. You say there's probably some people in there that are. But with CrossFit, it appears, though, that everybody says, it's the whole group. They're all on it. And it's like, okay, why can't you take the same approach with any other sport where, maybe there's a couple of people that are, but they're not all doing it?
That is such a good argument. I've actually never heard it really posed that way. I love that argument.
Well,
why can't we just look at it the way
we
look at every other sport? No, it's true. I mean, I think probably the reason why that happens more in our sport and our community is because people just look like Mr. and Mrs. Universe. Do you know what I mean?
They do.
People are just shredded. Yeah, and you don't really look at, like, every lineman and say, like, that dude's definitely on steroids. You're probably just like, that's a big, chunky dude. Like, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So people are obviously more inclined to say that for people who look like they have this insane, idyllic body type. I also think that still, and it's crazy to say because it's 2019, it's almost 2020, but people are like not used to seeing women with muscle. And it is ridiculous. Like, wake up and smell the freaking equality. But I just think people just see women with abs and with delts and, defined muscle tone, and they're like, oh, there's no way women don't look like that. She must be on steroids. So, like, first off, you can fuck all the way off. And second off, like, no, like, we catch people every season and we ban people, like, important, popular people. It happens.
Oh, yeah. The consequences in CrossFit are massive. Like, I remember in baseball, I think it was Manny Ramirez, because I'm a Red Sox fan, Northeast.
Same.
Manny got popped for steroids 3 or 4 different times in his career, and he never got lifetime banned. You get banned for years and years in CrossFit, and when that happens, it may not be a career-ending ban, but with the way that CrossFit's designed, at least today, your prime window to win the games is when you're younger. I'm not saying somebody in the Masters couldn't, but the odds are a little tougher. It's much more severe when you get caught in CrossFit.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that they have an appeals process, and I know that they end up doling out their final verdict, sometimes based on whether you did it intentionally, or if you can prove that your supplements were tainted from the source, like whatever, you're still going to get hit with the consequences because you are ultimately responsible for what you put in your body. But there's been people fighting the good fight, especially this past season, about where their supplements came from or the food that they were eating or whatever, and their ultimate sanctions will be doled out based upon, whatever the internal investigation shows. And either way, it's harsh. It definitely is. So I don't understand why people freak out about, everyone's on it. Like, no, stop.
No, I think
just because you can't work out that hard.
No, yeah. and it's. I think you hit it on the head. It's because in CrossFit, generally they're wearing very little clothes. The men generally don't have shirts on. The women are in booty shorts and a sports bra. So you see their bodies, and like you said, they are chiseled. And it's similar to, like, I'm a big fan of mixed martial arts, the UFC and Bellator and all that.
Yeah.
And generally in those sports, they're wearing little clothes also. So they get the whole, if they look good getting off the bus, then they must be doing steroids test.
Mm-hmm.
Where, okay, we know that it's not necessarily true. I'm sure there's some that are. You can be doing steroids and not have a six-pack too.
Yes, of course. And I'm not going to sit here and say that no one is. I'm sure people are trying to cheat the system. People in every major sport try to cheat the system. And is there a way to do them and cycle off of them and pass your tests? Like, I don't know. I hear people say that all the time. So probably. But, the sport and the governing body is doing everything they possibly can to ensure that doesn't happen. So it is what it is.
It's not a CrossFit thing. It's a human thing. If there's a way to cheat the systems, there will be a small percentage that try to do it. And that was, that's my point about, like, it seems like CrossFit gets hammered for that. And it's like, they're no worse than anybody else. I mean, really, just take a step back. And it's. I think you hit it because it's like you can see it. And then also with the women, you totally nailed it, where society thinks that if you've got muscles and have abs as a woman, that's not natural, it's not feminine, it's not attractive, and of course they're wrong on all counts.
Right. Yeah. And also, like, our top athletes get tested year-round. So the cycling or whatever argument, like, just doesn't seem to hold water to me. They can't even, the regulations are so strict that, like, they can't travel. Like, the people who are doing drug testing need to know where they are at all times. So if they're, like, going on a weekend away somewhere, they need to inform them.
Oh, no kidding. See, I didn't know that. I was thinking it would be kind of like, the world's strongest man. From what I understand, I'm not an expert on that contest, but I believe, those gigantic men who come and lift cars and all that crap, they get tested at the event. So it's one of those types of situations, so that, obviously they take steroids, and most of them have admitted it, but they're clean at the event. And I don't even know if it's true anymore, but I was assuming they got tested at the event, kind of like boxing. But I know in MMA they do what you were just describing. So if you're in the testing pool, you can get randomly tested at any point of the year. They can just kind of go, hey, could you pee in this cup for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they also get tested at the events, obviously. And that's honestly one of the most difficult parts about wrapping an event for me is, like, everyone's just won, and you want to talk to them, and you want to hear about what's going through their mind. And I'm, like, waiting for the broadcast to sync up with me on the floor, and I got my mic, and I got my earpiece, and I got everything, got the athlete. And athlete control is, like, up my butt, being like, they cannot stay here, don't touch them, don't look at them, they need to go pee in a cup right now. And I'm like, no, I need this interview, I need 20 seconds. So it's, it happens there, but it also, just like you said, it also happens all year round.
Oh, that's so funny. I can imagine, like, you're literally setting up and, going to go talk to Matt Frazier or somebody, and then No, he's got here. You got to fill this cup, then come back.
Right.
Maybe you should
and I'm
set
like,
up
there
outside
is no
a porta potty or
time.
something.
Kind of, like, it's happened. I'm like, there is no coming back. Like, we're in a live broadcast. Like, people are watching. They want to see this, and then they're going to turn off their TV. It's a constant battle.
Well, that's the thing that's really unique about the games that I find and that I love. I've watched them. I've only watched them 2 years in a row now, but I watched them this year and last year. The live streaming, I think that's phenomenal. But I didn't really think about it from the unique challenges it must play for you and everybody else who's actually doing the work to put that on.
Yeah, and obviously, like, we've had some drama in the media world in CrossFit in this last year, but we were still able to pull it off this year, which was cool. It was a very different operation, but I will say that you cannot even imagine the undertaking and the effort to make the live streaming happen from the producers and directors and the Sean who just orchestrated everything, and it's just it takes a village. It takes 100 villages and to be a part of something like that. Yeah, it takes just friggin' the most effort. I'm not doing a good job putting it into words, but the people who have done it in the past and the people who built it up to what it was, ultimately, I think last year was probably our like culminating broadcast because this year was a much smaller effort. We had the world stream and we were doing sort of like the bare bones in broadcasting and letting other outlets pick it up. So it was, like I said, a different effort. But either way, it's been just so much work. But it's great. It's the coolest thing to get to do. It's just so rad that we get to, bring these stories out to the people and in so many different mediums and streaming online. And we've been on network stations. We've been on CBS and CBS Sports and ESPN2. And it's been so cool. The coolest.
Well, that's the cool thing about it is because it's not this stodgy old thing where you go and you tape over the course of a handful of days, and then over the next 2 to 3 weeks you go back and do your editing and your canned interviews and all of that stuff, and then within a handful of months you put it out so people can see it. You can't do that anymore. You got to go live with it because everybody's going to know who won every event online anyway.
Yes, exactly. There is no option. If you want it to be accessible, it's got to be in real time.
Okay, so challenging for you. We've been talking a lot about the sport and the athletes and the experience, but your experience as somebody who's there trying to get all that shit done. It's live. So people are just coming out of the water after the long swim, and you need to start talking with people. Talk to me about how that feels. I mean, like literally, you don't have the opportunity to say, hey, tell me about the turn out there. Looked like you were struggling. If they stumble on the answer, you don't get a chance to say, okay, hold on, let's start over again. It's all live. You're going.
No, it's live. It's live. So there's challenges sort of in a number of different ways. Like if you look at my personal challenges, I need to have done enough research on the athlete, and that could be any athlete in the field, right? Because anyone could win any event. So I need to have done enough research about them and their background to have a set of questions in my head outside of what just happened. I need to know like where you grew up and what your training was like, and have you won this before, and is this a run event? What was your run event, or what was your run time on the last run event that you did last year or 2 years ago, and how many times have you been in competition, whatever. So there's that. Then I need to also have paid enough attention to the entire event to be able to ask you questions about what the hell just happened. Like, did you pull ahead in the second half? Did you start ahead and stay ahead? Did you stumble, but then you whatever? Then I have to be listening to your answers to the questions to be able to ask follow-up questions while also having all those other questions still in my head. And this is all while I have the truck talking to me in my ear.
Now, what are they telling you in your ear?
Well, it depends. Like sometimes they'll be guiding me in terms of timing. Sometimes it'll be they'll have a tidbit or they'll know someone. We've got some awesome people behind the scenes that run stats and do research and stuff all the time. So sometimes they'll be able to be, pipe into my ear and be like, oh, by the way, like he won this, but he was a college swimmer. And if I don't already have that memorized, then that's helpful. And sometimes accidentally they'll just leave my mic open in the truck so I can just hear them chatting. Which is very distracting, but So it just there's just a lot. There's a lot like going on in my head, and I'm listening in one ear and listening to the athlete in the other ear. So those challenges exist. And then I think what you're asking about is if the athlete, him or herself, is not totally comfortable being on camera, or if they stumble over their words, or if they just don't give me great answers, how do I like stop from stumbling over the and I think I think what I've got going for me in that respect is I've been working with a lot of these people for a long time now. So they know me and they're comfortable with me, and I'm, familiar with them on a friendship basis in addition to just being on camera. So it's easy to carry on a conversation, and they feel comfortable enough with me to be like, oh, hey, Niki, like, okay, it's just you. I can talk to you, and it feels normal. That's really lucky for me. But on top of that, I think just my experience in news and journalism really helps, because I've been able to do interviews on really difficult subjects in the past. And so doing a sport interview is kind of like fine. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be fine. Yep. We'll find a way to get you to smile or give a good answer, or I can lead you to an answer with the way that I ask a question. And if it's really tanking, I'll just wrap it. Sometimes people just, they don't like it. They don't want to be there, and they just stop asking me, and they give me yes or no answers, but I have to try really hard not to ask yes or no questions. So that's the other thing, too. And I've had some great coaching from Mike Ross, who has just put these broadcasts together in the past. They've been his absolute baby. And he will constantly be watching me and giving me feedback and being like, you can't ask yes or no questions. You can't lead into every question by being like, so tell me about. And you can't, I have these rules around parameters around the questions and types of questions I'm allowed to ask in order to make me a better storyteller and also help, bring good answers out of the athletes. And there's a lot going on.
That makes sense. So now, obviously, every follow-up question that I have, I can't start with, so tell me about.
You're not allowed to say, you can't say, so tell me about. You can't ask, oh, God, what are the rules? Can't ask, like, how do you feel? How does it feel? How to blah, blah, blah. You can't, there's so many rules. And if you watch good interviewers, you can tell, because, if someone keeps saying the same thing over and over again, and I'm like, I'm that. I'm like, oh, great. So, oh, great. Sounds great. So, oh, that's great. And he's like, stop saying that. Oh, right. Now
I'm going to be incredibly self-conscious for the rest of it, so we'll see how it goes. Crap.
This is much more informal. You're fine.
Yeah, okay, good. Obvious. And you know what? There's a shit ton of less people that are going to be listening to this than watching you on the broadcast of the games. That's for sure.
Right.
Man. So you have got they sound like some, fair to say, some pretty full days going on.
Oh, my God, yeah.
When you're at the game. Okay. So I was going to ask, what do you do? Do you have any downtime? What do you do to relax and try to de-stress? Or is it like when you go to the games, is it just, I know this is going to be 24/7 for a handful of days. I got to suck it up. Let's do it. What are your days or your nights like?
They are insane. Our days are jam-packed. We're working freaking 14, 16-hour days, and you just know going into it that it is going to be – there's no downtime. And you know what's crazy, though, is like the media folks and the broadcast folks, and so that's like the MCs who work the events who work the longest hours, and the people behind the scenes who help make all of it possible. We are such a family. Like, we are so tight, and we only see each other a few times a year, but we're like the closest friends that you could ever make. So it's really tough because we work these events, and there's long days, and they're very stressful. So it's like a very high energy, high emotional toll situation. But we're also so jazzed and so amped to be able to see each other and work together that we will like stay up way later than we should, having drinks and catching up and just like loving on each other. And so it equates to weeks of just not sleeping. Like we just don't sleep. Like we work all day, we stay up too late and hang out, and then we get up way too early the next morning to do it all over again. And it's for me especially because I did not wake up like this. And you see me on camera, that shit took work.
Okay, so I was going to go there. Okay, yeah. What about like going out, staying out too late, drinking too much? Did you ever make one of those mistakes? Okay. So
oh my God, no, never.
Never? Not once?
No. No, I've never overslept or come in the next day like way hungover. No. That's crazy, right? Now that I think about it, like that has never happened. No.
I would think it would be probably career suicide.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, I've done it for my day job.
Okay.
Never for CrossFit stuff. I think too because we're too like amped. We're just so amped up. Like my alarm might go off at 5 a.m., but I am like so stoked to get back out on the competition floor that it makes it okay. My husband will not believe that I said that out loud because he thinks I'm garbage before like 9 a.m. But it's true, I promise.
Well, it feels like the kind of environment, or I shouldn't say it feels like because I wasn't there. It seems like it looks like the kind of environment that, it's go, go, go the whole time, start really early, going to the wee hours, preparing, getting yourself ready for the next day, looking at what's upcoming to, refresh your mind and everything. And I don't know Dave Castro, but he seems like the kind of guy that you never know. Maybe there'll be a twist that you're not prepared for, so you always have to be on your toes.
Oh, they are changing things up until the moment the events begin. And we are, as the broadcast team, and I include MCs and media folks in there too, like we're just staying as up to date as we possibly can and being cool with changing things on the fly. We're just in every athlete briefing and behind the scenes with all of them and asking the judges a million questions and making sure that we have a good understanding of the events as well. And you're right, they change all the time. So it's a lot to juggle. And it's so worth it because it's so much fun.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so let's talk about the different locations you get to go to. Any favorites of the different places that you've been for any of your work?
I have been so lucky. I have gotten to go to some really, really cool places. Probably my favorite to date is Dubai because it is just a wild place that I never really thought I would have the opportunity to go to. And I've gone to DCC, it used to be DFC, for the last 2 years. I've been chatting with them about this year. I don't have a plane ticket booked yet, but I'm hoping that comes through. And that has just, I never thought I would end up in the Middle East. And it turns out I freaking love the Middle East. It is so cool. It is like a culture shock and a complete twist, and I love it. I love everything about it.
Is like everything made of gold and diamonds in Dubai?
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like...
That's okay. You see the sports cars everywhere. I mean, the police cars are Ferraris and Lotus and all that kind of stuff. And I just imagine everything is shining and beautiful.
Yeah, but it's both, though. It's like, it's crazy and lavish, and it's kind of like Vegas. But at the same time, like, there's a beautiful mosque on every corner, and like for as many gold and diamond crusted whatevers, there's like, women who are fully covered in a headdress or men in traditional garb as well. And it's so like, it's just completely half and half. It's like crazy and wild and nuts, and also like beautiful and modest and respectful and religious. And I just think it's the coolest combination. It's the coolest culture.
Awesome.
I love it.
I wasn't anticipating Wisconsin, Madison being like at the top of the list.
No, but what?
No disrespect to Wisconsin.
No, yes, of course not. You know what? Probably my second favorite spot is St. Cloud, Minnesota, for the Granite Games.
Really?
Yeah, and that's not really a testament to the location as much as the event itself is just, we feel like a family, like the people who get to go to that event every year, and it's like coming home to your buds. So, maybe St. Cloud doesn't have all that much to offer in terms of city perks, but that event and getting to be kind of like the after party is at like a dive bar, and we love that. I love everything about that. It's a really good event too.
Cool. That's awesome. I wouldn't guess that either, but we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's Miami and there's Italy and there's like all these cool places, but the event matters too, you know.
Absolutely. Very cool. All right. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock, but I had another question for you, or topic, if you will, because I'm afraid to form it in of a question phrase because I'll get ridiculed because I didn't do it right. But you're a Trekkie.
Oh my God, I am. Is that lame?
True? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge. I'm only here to learn. I just want to. How does that fit into things? How did you? Is it from your childhood? Are you like original, like William Shatner? Are you? How does that fit into things?
I mean, I don't discriminate against Star Trek's series and or movies. It is from my childhood. I grew up watching it with my mom and my brother. My brother and I are big sci-fi nerds, so we continuously will rewatch episodes together constantly. I'm a Jean-Luc Picard fan, first and foremost. But again, I'll partake in any kind of Trekkiness. I'm not above dressing up for an event or two.
Really?
It's just so good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, why not? Bring it on.
Oh,
I'm a nerd.
Okay. So Halloween is coming up. Are you dressing up as a Trekkie type of character?
Oh, that would be a great idea. I don't know yet. I haven't made a plan yet. I like to play with makeup on Halloween, so I don't know if that'll fit in, but we'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess I got to get on it.
We'll just have to follow you on Instagram, and we'll see what happens there.
You probably will.
Cool. Well, Niki, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking time on your day. This was an awesome conversation. I feel like I could talk with you for another hour or two or three. But I know.
Thank you.
Whole morning.
Thank you for letting me just blab on forever. I could talk about, my love for this sport and for my job for a million years. So thank you.
No problem. And donuts, of course.
Of course.
So before we wrap, do you want to take a chance to, like you were talking about the gym you coach at and your business that you're running, do you want to take a moment and you can plug those and that way people know where to follow you?
Oh, sure, yeah. I would just say, so I coach at Ironclad Fitness Center and the home of Ocean State CrossFit here in Rhode Island, so if you're looking for a gym, come see us. And also I'm me. I love being on camera, but also I do a ton of behind-the-scenes work in terms of video and editing and marketing and advertising is my full-time job. So if people have questions or need services, just reach out to me. I'm at Reporter Nicole.
All right. Awesome. That's how I found her, and she was very responsive, people, so take advantage. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. This has been really fun. Appreciate it.